It's the final day of the Championship season, and we are bringing you our final predictions of the season in the league campaign. I'm Craig Surgeon. With me, as always, is Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts. Let's have a quick recap of Matchday 45 and 45.5. Matchday 45 was not many points, no perfect scores. So I ended the day on 5, Charlie ended the day on 4, and Daniel Cody ended the day on 3. But in midweek, Luton versus Rotherham, which surprisingly ended 0-0. Daniel Cody picked up the odd point because he's the only one that picked the draw. So the table looks like this going into the final day. All the points still to play for. I lead the way of 333 with 55 perfect scores. Daniel Cody's on 310 with 50 perfect scores. And Charlie Betts is on 280 with 37 perfect scores. As it's the final day, at the top there is nothing to play for, but it is all down at the bottom where 4 teams can still survive. Technically 3, but 4. So the permutations look like this. Derby are playing Sheffield Wednesday. All Derby need to do is to win. Sheffield Wednesday need to win, and Rotherham not to win. And for Rotherham, they need to beat Cardiff, and Derby not to win. Wickham, who could also win the game, they could get to 43 points, but they got a really bad goal difference compared to the teams above them. So let's start off with the big game. It is Derby County versus Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, what a game to have on the final day between two teams who are scrapping for survival, Charlie Betts.
Yeah, I think if Wednesday had been at home, I honestly think this had been a firm shout for it to be a fairly solid home win. Problem is Wednesday's away form hasn't been great. What I would say is of the two teams, Wednesday looked slightly more like scoring and have scored more goals in the last 7 or 8 games. I think Derby have returned maybe 3, possibly 4. Wednesday have shown glimmers, but defensively there's some huge worries there. What I love, an interesting stat about this, both teams concede 20, of all the goals they conceded this season, 27% have come between the 81st and the 90th minute. So if there's ever going to be a late winner in a game that's going to keep a team up or relegate them, surely it comes in this one. The problem is I really don't know which Wednesday is going to tap. Derby, for me, I can't see anything changing. I can't see anything changing from their approach in the previous games. I know a draw could be enough, but I just worry about the defensive issues that they've got. Even they take the lead, concede a lot of late goals. The pressure's got to them. It's just which Wednesday turn up. I'm going to back Wednesday because I have done. And I really like the fans. They've been great to us. So come on the Owls. I'm going to go for. Here's what's going to happen. It hasn't happened all season. Wednesday are going to go 2-1 up. Derby only need a draw. Derby throw them forward for a free kick or a corner. Late third goal. 3-1 Sheffield Wednesday.
At least you're doing it with a different score this time.
Daniel Cody.
Well, I think taking one of the unusual stats like Charlie Betts, we have got, for a TV game, a big climax to final game of the season, the lowest home scorers v the lowest away scorers. Entertainment personified. I don't know who's going to win it. I don't know who's going to stay up. If there is more than one goal in this game, it's proof that the pressure is getting to people because there is no other reasonable explanation for this being anything other than 0-0 or 1-0. And that's ruled out every score bar 3 for me. Now, the fact that Derby have lost 6 in a row, it's the worst possible time to hit poor form. And we always talk about those sides that slide because Derby until 4-5 weeks ago, probably after the last international break, we weren't even talking about relegation. We thought they're out of it now. And they've just gradually crept back in. And it's very hard to swing that when you've gone from on holiday to in danger in 4 weeks. Sheffield Wednesday are a mixed bag. And of course, they still haven't got their manager on the touchline, which is a big thing to consider too. But if ever there's going to be a big performance, I kind of agree with Charlie, it might be this one. But I don't think it's going to be enough. And despite all the huffing and puffing, despite the fact that they've created a lot of chances, they've been very good largely in recent games. I'm afraid, based on the game against Nottingham Forest last time out, I have to go for a draw. I have to go for a 0-0 on TV on the final day. And I don't know whether that's going to be enough to save Derby either. We'll wait and see in a moment.
Oh, well, I have to tend to agree with Daniel Cody. I can't see much in this game. I think you alluded perfectly. Both teams not very good scoring at home and away, respectively. Mike Dean's the referee in this game as well. That could throw a spanner in the works. But at the end of the day, I can't see anything. I think Sheffield Wednesday had a good opportunity last week to do something against Forest. They didn't take it. To be fair, Westwood did save a penalty for Wednesday. But I can see a draw as well, and I am going for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Would that be enough for me? I don't know. Let's talk about the other team who's in the relegation battle. That is Cardiff City versus Rotherham. Rotherham United code. You watched the game against Luton on Tuesday night, and time after time, they've had so many chances to get out of this relegation zone. They haven't taken it.
Yeah, what I will say, though, is it was probably a fairly fortunate and might yet turn out to be a good point for them in the week. I think, as I don't often do this, I don't often criticise referees, but while we're on the topic, I think the referee on Tuesday night might have got a little bit engrossed in the survival battle, because how the Luton goal's been ruled out late on from the set piece. I mean, the Sky Sports pundits couldn't explain it. The Luton commentary couldn't explain it. Most people on social media couldn't explain it. So I think soft is possibly the nicest word I can put towards it. But Rotherham, to be fair, they did what we expected. They were fairly resilient defensively. They actually, towards the end of the game, they put on a bigger striker. They put Ladapo on as well. And they went more direct. And they looked a real threat when they did that. They looked a threat from set pieces. And I think the style of play that they don't often play suited them better. So I'd be interested to see if they'd approach that the last game. Leave Smith up there from the start, but maybe put Ladapo up too. And just really go for it. Because realistically, Rotherham have to win. And I think they should just go for it from the start, especially against a team like Cardiff, who are quite direct themselves and good from set pieces. Having said that, based on my other result, if Rotherham win, they stay up. They're going to do it. Rotherham are going to do it. They're going to win by 2-1. Cardiff have been in brilliant form since they had the opportunity to go on holiday, since they've had nothing to play for. They're 5 unbeaten. They've won their last 2. Against Birmingham, they were brilliant. But they're going to slip up on this one. It's going to be 2-1 Rotherham, and the Millers are going to be dancing in the streets at the weekend.
Charlie?
Do you know, it hinges on the centre forwards, to be honest. You mentioned about Michael Smith as well, and obviously Freddie Ladapo had that great little run against QPR. You know, there's 2 crucial goals in that, because he is an influential player, whichever way you dress it up. I know it's only 9 goals this season, but he's such a linchpin for them in that formation that they play. The thing is, Mick McCarthy, though, he likes these sort of, in my opinion, as a coach, he quite likes these sort of teams. You know, these teams, you're going to play the one up front, they're going to try and play off the second ball. And if anyone's going to be able to deal with that, it's Cardiff, who probably, physique-wise, are probably one of the bigger teams in the league, you know, in that sense. Rotherham, in terms of, like, stats and stuff like that, they can see goals all over the place. I've mentioned this before. Quite often when they go behind, seldom do they ever really return a win off the back of that. So the worry for them is if they let one in early from a set piece, for example, you know, something like that, I can't then see him getting a result. And I think Mick McCarthy might just do a bit of a special here. He's too big, he's too long in the tooth, he's too experienced to not get influenced by relegation battles and stuff like that. So he's going to go out to win that game. And also, what to add really, there's a lot of players who Mick McCarthy now has said about a month ago, he said he needs to do a massive overhaul of the squad. So a lot of players here playing for potentially another contract in the Championship, and they might not get that at other clubs. So on that basis, the last game is always a good memory to leave the manager with. So I'm going to actually go that, although it's holiday mode, some of them are playing for their future. So on that basis, Cardiff are going to win by 2-0.
I've been waiting for Rotherham to win for weeks, and they haven't done it. Can they save that final win on the final day? Yes, I do think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do it. Cardiff will be on the beach, the towels will be on the sun lounges, and final day always comes up with a little bit of magic and lots of twists and turns. I can see this being another day of twists and turns, really nervy moments. The fans are not in the house. That makes it even more tense, in my opinion. So I think that the Millers are going to do it. I think they're going to win 1-0. The other team that's also not relegated yet is Wycombe Wanderers. They have got a massive goal swing to conjure up. They need to win about 12-0, Charlie Betts.
Yeah, I think Wycombe have not necessarily been the most fluent in front of goal all season. What I would say is I don't necessarily like some of the patronising comments that you see on social media about how Wycombe are so happy to be at this stage. Whichever way you look at, they're a Championship club. They were playing as many games and have played as many games as any other team. So let's keep the patronisation aside. Yes, it's a fantastic effort, but the goal swing is going to be too much for them, especially against the team with Middlesbrough. Neil Warnock, albeit has been very much in and out of form, he's not going to gift anyone a game. He's too experienced in that. I think there's been green shoots for Wycombe. I think that the shame is this run that they maybe picked up, it maybe took a little bit too long for them to find their feet, to find that right formation, to find that right system that worked for them. What I would say is that's the whole point of the process of them coming up, and you know, it's a learning curve, isn't it? You know, and I don't. That's not in a disrespectful way. I think that actually they can come out of this with a lot of credit, but they are a Championship club and they are still technically a Championship club. And I actually think they'll pick up a win, not by 12 goals, unfortunately, but I think they'll get a win. But I don't think there'll be a lot in it. I'm going to have to go for a classic 1-0 win, unfortunately.
I don't think Wickham will win the game, unfortunately. And to be fair to them, they've given. I know I've bashed them for pretty much the whole season since the football manager debacle of last year, but I have to give them a lot of credit because I thought I wasn't going to say they were going to be the lowest point scorers in the Championship ever. I didn't expect them to be this close right to the end of the season. I thought they were down a month or so ago, but they keep plugging away. They're picking up victories. They picked up a very good victory against Bournemouth last weekend. And it just adds a little bit of confidence. I know that it's 11 goals for them. They haven't scored more than 3 once at all this season. Probably they did in the FA Cup, I know that, against Preston. But just run out of time. I think if they have a couple more games, they might survive. But they're going to lose the game, unfortunately. I think they'll lose 2-0. Cody.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to go for this game. I'll say what I said last week, which is I still worry it might be Gareth Ainsworth's last game. The fact that Preston haven't announced a manager, it just seems a logical fit for me. So I do worry about that for Wickham, because that will be, no matter what happens to any players in the summer, like Craig and Charlie have mentioned, if Wickham lose Gareth Ainsworth, that is the biggest blow to that football club. So I hope for their sake they keep hold of him. And it just comes down to fractions. Like Craig says, they've done so well to get this close. But you just look at that Luton game. Without the red card, they would have won that game. They were comfortable. They were 1-0 up. They were in a good position. And then one moment of ill discipline cost them. Against Swansea, 2-0 up, one moment of ill discipline, a mistake, back in the game, and Swansea draw 2-2. Without that, they're arguably favourites to stay up going into the final day, because if they're level on points, they've got a better chance of winning than Derby. And even looking forward with the news of Sheffield Wednesday perhaps not paying players on time again last month, we can't rule out politics after the season, unfortunately. But with the goal difference, I don't see a situation where Wickham can make it possible. So I think they'll put in a good display. I think they'll win as well. I'm going to go for 2-1 for Wickham, but it's not going to be enough, I'm afraid. But a brilliant season. And to be fair, after all the crap they got for the first 4 or 5 games where they were poor and took a month to adapt, they've really held their own and they've done a great job. So they've earned their status as a Championship side this season for sure.
Right, let's move on to the rest of the Championship fixtures. Most of these are, well, I say most, they are all dead rubbers, apart from a couple of places in the playoffs who decide to play who, but that doesn't really matter. So let's start off with teams who, one of them's in the playoffs, and then one of them is the champions. It's Barnsley versus Norwich City. Charlie, losing last week, Barnsley, do you really want to go into the playoffs in good form?
Yeah, the things you spoke about this a few times, you have to think about rotation as well in terms of sports scientists and all that will have players near the red zone and all that kind of stuff that they talk about. So you don't want to be flirting with that. Norwich have lost Timu Pukki. Obviously, I know they're champions and all of that. So he's injured, so he's not going to be playing. So I think this maybe gives a chance of a possible case for a draw. I don't think Barnsley are going to want to risk any of their big players in this, because really, what's the point? What's it worth? You know, it doesn't really matter who they're playing, because all 3 of the teams that they're playing on paper are better than them. So it doesn't really, positions for me, I think it's irrelevant for Barnsley out of the 4 teams that are there. So for me, I think they'll go with a bit of freedom. Norwich maybe, on the celebration tour now. So for me, a draw. Championship favourite scoreline, I'm going to kick off with 1-1.
Cody.
I'll stick a very quick caveat here. I won't talk too much because Charlie's covered the game, but Barnsley have an interesting record against Brentford, and of course some heartache to them before. I don't think they'll be devastated if they finish 6th. So I'm going to say they might rest a few. Norwich will have the parade of champions. Norwich to win by 3-1.
I'm going to agree with Cody on the Norwich win. Nothing special. Champions can go out in style. Yeah, Barnsley, I think they've got one eye. They'll definitely have one eye on the playoffs. I think Norwich will win this game quite convincingly 2-1. Next up, Blackburn Rovers versus Birmingham City. Cody, Birmingham, despite the good form under Lee Bowie, felt like a bit of Anto Karanka style in that game against Cardiff.
Yeah, it was. I think it's fair to say that he's probably earned to have a bad day at the office, given the position he's got them into. I think the thing for them in this game is they could actually finish above Blackburn if they win it, which, given where they were when he took over, is a remarkable position. I mean, we were talking about Birmingham as relegation candidates rather than Derby at the time, and look at the difference between them now. Birmingham are 9 points clear of them, and that was their first defeat in 6. So, brilliant job from Bowyer. Tony Mowbray's side, the inconsistency continues. A 1-0 defeat, a 5-2 win, a 1-1 draw. I'm going to split the difference and say it will be a draw again. But this time, 2 goals each. I think it will be a bit of a thriller.
I'm going to go with Birmingham, actually. I'm going to go for Birmingham win. Despite Blackburn's little good form right at the end, they've still been absolutely poor. Probably one of the worst form teams in 2021, to be fair. But yeah, Birmingham, I think they're going to win this game 2-0. Charlie?
Someone's getting a point for the interest of competition, and I'm going to go for a Blackburn win. I just think that possibly, as I mentioned, there's going to be a few teams like this now. Lads are playing for contracts. I mean, obviously, Blackburn lost people like Bradley Dack. That was a huge loss to them, but they haven't really hit anything this season. So there's some people who are playing for their future, whereas I think Birmingham have done their job and can afford to go on holiday. So not a great game for me. 1-0 Blackburn.
Up next, it is Bournemouth, who are looking to finish at least 4th place. They are playing Stoke City. Cody, Stoke City, they just stopped since pretty much March, early March. So what can Michael O'Neill learn from this season?
He can learn that a lot of those older players that are still on those Premier League contracts that are out of contract in the summer won't be needing a new one, and that he can build the squad with younger, hungrier players, which he had started to do, and they've still had a better season than last season, but they've fallen away big time. And this is the problem, that if ever there's a game that's going to be a Michael O'Neill special based on Bournemouth's last 2 games, it is this one, because 2 1-0 defeats, and Bournemouth, for all the credit we gave Woodgate, they've reached the playoffs, and you could argue, yes, they're preparing themselves for that, but you don't want to get in a losing streak just before the playoff semi-finals. If they win, they could be 4th, and you never know, that home advantage second leg could be crucial. We could have some fans, some test events or whatever as we go through the month, so it could play an important part, having a home game 3 days later. You never know at this point. For now, though, you've got to go for a Bournemouth win. I know they've lost 2 on the bounce, but Stoke have been horrendous recently. Bournemouth to win 2-1 and go into the playoffs in form.
Charlie?
For sentiment and value, Michael O'Neill special 1-0.
You think this could be 3 defeats in a row? I don't think it could be 3 defeats in a row. The number 3 is quite special in this one, because I think Bournemouth are going to win this game 3-0. I think that this is just, I think they're walking Bournemouth. Like, they've been really, really poor, Stoke. Bournemouth, on the other hand, we're going to talk a lot more about Bournemouth in the near future in our playoff previews. So, I think this will be a really convincing 3-0 win for them. All right, another team in the playoffs is Brentford. They've got home advantage in the second leg. They were going to finish 3rd. They are away to Bristol City. Let's talk about Bristol City. Charlie, Nigel Pearson's got that 3-year deal. We said about players got to come in and out, but I bet he just can't wait for the season to be over.
No, I mean, he didn't get that 3-year deal based on their home form. Let's be brutally honest. I don't know what to say. I don't like using the word banker, but surely Bristol City at home hasn't resulted in a win since Nigel Pearson's been there. So I can't back it again. I think even with Brentford, I'd be amazed if they don't rotate players given the form they've had and then they know the playoffs. But I cannot see a Bristol City winning any of this. There is a huge overhaul that needs to be done there, but it's not going to start this week. And yeah, I think I have to back Brentford, even with their second string. 2-0 Brentford.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Brentford. I think like Bristol, they conceded 4 against Millwall last week, so I think they're going to concede 4 again at home, this time to Brentford. So yeah, 4-0 Brentford win for me. Cody?
Yeah, it's going to be a very big summer for Nigel Pearson. I would expect, I mean, we said about 2 weeks ago, didn't we? There's 11 or 12 players out of contract. I think it will be 15 or 20 changing if he's got any say in it, because there's big overhaul needed there. And it's been under 2 managers and a caretaker. It's not like it's a one manager problem. Brentford back in form, shaped up defensively. To be fair to them, I didn't think they would, but they've only let in 1 goal in the last 6 now. And they're going into the playoffs in good form, which is normally a good sign. But with Brentford, you never know what's around the corner. And I do worry if they get Barnsley, genuinely, because we all remember the last day of last season. So we're not going to get too excited about that just yet. But for this game, it's got to be a Brentford win. I'll go 1 less than Craig. I think it'll be 3-0. Bristol City do have a goal threat, but not today.
Next up is Coventry, their final game at Birmingham, hopefully for a very long time. They are at home to Millwall. Charlie, as the school teacher you are, what grade would you give Coventry's season?
If I was writing a report, I would say started slow, got distracted, but, as the years gone by, has knuckled down. So I think that's what's happened, really. I think the last, 6-7 weeks have been a bit of a microcosm of their season. 6 weeks ago, no one gave them a hope of staying up. Somehow pulled some goals from somewhere as well. Maybe it just took them that long to find a system that worked. But ironically, I think against Millwall, I think there's nothing to play for here. Millwall have been uninspiring the last few weeks, if I'm honest. For them, I think a draw would be a decent result to finish the season on. So that's what I'm going for. I think Coventry are going to go back to that barren patch. No win in the last 2, 0-0.
Yeah, I think Coventry, they've done well. They've done well. Millwall, I think they'll slightly be disappointed. So I'm going to go for 1-1. Cody?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Millwall because they did hit form again last week, but it was against Bristol City, who have been in atrocious form. And before that, albeit against 4 of the top 6, they hadn't been particularly convincing. Against sides around them and below, they've generally done all right. Coventry, they're safe, fair play to them. They've got a young squad which will improve with time. but I don't think they're going to win this one. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Millwall to finish the season. I've got to work out where I'm going to throw in my weird result as well.
Well, maybe this one, because it's Nottingham Forest versus Preston, two teams that have really disappointed us this season, guys.
Yeah, but I don't think if you're going to predict goals galore, it's not going to be this game, is it? Preston on the road do not score many. Forest generally score even less. Do you know what? I know there's going to be a thriller last day of the season. If this game isn't 0-0, then do you know what? I deserve to lose the point. 0-0.
I'm going to go for this game to be the absolute why not. Yeah, I'm going to go for 2-2, even though it's not the absolute why not. I was going to say 4-4 just a second there, but I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to half that. Charlie?
I'll be honest, I got my 8-month-old baby to roll her dice twice, and it came out as a 4-3 win for Forest, because that's the sort of way we're going to do this. But on a serious note, I know I'm just joshing about it, but genuinely, how do you predict these two teams? Given the season they've had, and it's always the way, the last day of the season, you mentioned about it, Forest have been woeful in front of goal. Preston, again, all over the shop, both home and away. I honestly don't know where to go with it. So I got my 8-month-old to the side, and I'm going to put a wager down now, Craig, see how competitive you are. If that comes in, I want 30 points for that.
No, I'll give Jessica 30 points, not you.
Give her one more than Charlie's got.
yeah, still be one more than Charlie.
She's going to finish third.
Right, Luton Town, they're away to Queen's Park Rangers. Daniel Cody, top half finish for the Hatters.
Yeah, really good season. I said it last week. I don't get how some people can still be negative about it. However, QPR like Luton are the two sides that haven't gone on holiday that could have. And they both deserve a lot of credit for that. QPR, a lot of good players, a lot of entertaining football. Last time we went there, we weren't very good. We were 3 down by half time early on last season. Very hard ground to get out of, by the way. Luton on the road, don't score many goals. Take aside Bristol City, who were in woeful form. I'm going for 3-1 QPR.
Charlie?
I have to agree. I think, Luton unbeaten in the last 5. Probably unlucky, obviously they hit the bar against Rotherham as well. Probably unlucky in parts not to get a win there. I think Luton might just have that edge over QPR. And I think I don't think there's been many teams that have done the double over Luton. So I don't think they'll be wanting that to happen. I think Nathan Jones, that'll be quite a big driver for him and the players. Probably something he'll tap into. So on that basis, Luton to win by, I'm going to go one less than Dan, but the other way around. 2-1 Luton.
This is going to be the game I'm going to go wild on, because Luton say QPR in play. But I'm going to go for 3-3. Goals galore. Why not? Give a goal to you and you and you. Why not? 3-3 QPR Luton. That'll be the game of the weekend. 2 more to go. Reading versus Huddersfield Town. Do you expect there to be loads of goals there, Codes?
Yes. This is my game.
Excellent.
Huddersfield, on the road, they've been woeful. I mean, they did win 2-0 at Forest, in fairness, which kept them up. But battered by Blackburn, the 7 at Norwich not far before it. Reading, they've got to go out in style. They're going to wrap up 7th place. Huddersfield are going to stay in 20th regardless. I'm going to go for Reading to win by 6-2.
I'm glad you said that, because I've gone 4-1 to Reading. I'm so sorry, Huddersfield fans. We're not taking the piss out of you here. We're just being generally silly. 4-1 Reading. Annual coach going for 6-2 to Reading. Charlie, are you going 9-3?
No, I'm not quite going 9-3. No, I'm going to go 1-0 Reading. Nothing to play for, really. I agree with what you're saying. Huddersfield have been woeful, recently away from home, but they have shored up a little bit in the last game or two. Albeit, like you say, against Forest, and Reading to that we will. But Reading probably, will be hurting a little bit from obviously not quite making the playoffs. So 1-0 Reading. And
the final game, Watford versus Swansea. Swansea, I think they need to grow a bit more confidence again. Even though it gets a side that's really up there, I think that would be in good stead if they get a good victory out of them.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Swansea have won half of their last 6 games, but they've only beaten the sides that are struggling or on holiday. When they've played against the good sides, they played Reading, they struggled to a draw. Against an informed QPR, they struggled. Against Wickham, who had something to play for, they struggled. So I'm not sure Swansea are going to win. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go for Watford to win, Bournemouth to nick 4th, and that make all the difference in the playoffs. So Swansea are going to lose by 2-1, because Watford never score that many.
Yeah, I'm going to go Watford to win 1-0. It's their promotion party as well. Nothing to play for. I think they can play with their weird style. I think Swansea might be a bit reserved, to be honest. Looking forward to that playoff games. I'm going to go 1-0 Watford. Charlie?
Watford, some of those boys are going to want to be playing in the Premier League next year, so they ain't going to take the foot off the gas, because they're going to want to obviously, keep in the manager's mind. And on that basis, I'm going to go for a Watford win. I'm going for a Swansea special in reverse. 2-0 Watford. And
let's have a quick recap of our predictions. Me and Cody think Rotherham are going to survive. Charlie Betts is going for Sheffield Wednesday to survive. None of us have hope in Derby. And those are predictions for the final day of the championship season. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. Give us your predictions for this final day. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3. And we'll see you in the playoffs.